So we appear to be living in a pot-free zone. It's true. The feds have kind of bottled the opportunity to change the law as it currently exists, though they have stated their intention to decriminalize marijuana. While at the same time, a judge here in Ontario, in a judgment upheld by even more senior court, threw out the existing law as being unconstitutional, against the spirit of the Charter of Rights. So we're in a peculiar never-never land. Nonetheless, in various other parts of the country, prosecutions continue. And last time Marc Emery appeared here, he mesmerized us all by reminding us that something like 650,000 or 700,000 Canadians have criminal records for the possession of minor amounts of marijuana, and what that then does to their lives. The rate of prosecution continues at somewhere around 20,000 prosecutions a year. Different jurisdictions apply the law in different ways, and there are some people who think that all those resources perhaps could be applied in another way, fighting real crime. Is it me, or is there something weirdly inconsistent, even in this approach to new law, when that law says it's okay to smoke small amounts, but it's not okay to either buy it or grow it? I don't get that part, except that it seems to me that if it ever takes root, it's a way of driving casual consumers even further into the hands of criminals. So I don't get it, and I'm hoping that Marc Emery, who's made a very courageous lifetime of advocating against the current situation, can come up and explain it to us. Marc's been raided 10 times. He's been arrested 8 times. He's gone to jail 4 times. Nonetheless, he and his amazing assistant, Michelle Rainey, who's also in the audience here, keep up the good fight.
Thank you. Well, despite my best efforts, more people are in jail for marijuana throughout the world than any other time in mankind's history. And it's 2003, and marijuana has been cultivated by civilizations for over 12,000 years now. In fact, about 30,000 people are convicted in Canada each year. In fact, that's 1 every 6 minutes. So I'll get to that statistics. But 30,000 people are convicted for a marijuana offense in Canada each year, and that's cultivating and selling, and mostly just possessing. Mostly just young people, actually, too. And, but actually many more are even arrested. 90,000 Canadians are rousted and detained for marijuana. About 50 to 60,000 get charged. A number of charges are dropped and various things. So you get 30,000 convictions. But for example, I'll show you, I was raided last year in my home, and you know, it's weird. You get a call at 3:30 in the morning, and you always know it's a bad call at 3:30 in the morning. You know, your kids are in trouble. I've got 4 kids. They're all in their 20s now, but it's still possible. You know, any call at 3:30 in the morning, oh, I'll leave that call, let it ring. They'll go away. You're hoping it's a long-distance call from somewhere far away, and they've got the wrong number. And it's 3:30 in the morning, and I finally get up. It's persistent. I pick up the phone, and they go, Marc Emery, and I say, yes. This is the Victoria Police Department. We have your house surrounded. And his house surrounded. And they said, yes, we have a search warrant to enter your premises, and we want you to come outside your front door. And they said, don't put any clothes on. What are you wearing? I said, I'm in my underwear. I said, just go to your front door and walk outside to the sidewalk. And so I walk out there, and you know, you open the door at 3:30 in the morning, and it's crystal cool. And I'm looking around thinking, well, maybe it's a hoax, and it's a really good one, I hope, because I'm really kind of scared and curious. And then finally, Marc Emery, walk out to the sidewalk. And then I walk to the sidewalk, and sure enough, 8 police officers come from behind trees and trucks, and they surround me outside on the sidewalk in my underwear. And, you know, you're very acutely aware that cops are really big people, multinational. You know, there's black people, there's a woman, there's Chinese, but they're all around me. And they say, Marc, and we have a warrant to enter your premises. And I said, well, let's all go in. It's very cold. I felt acutely almost naked, in just my underwear with all these uniforms. And we went inside, and lead officer takes a big sniff, and he says, well, guess it's obvious why we're here. And I go, no, why are you here? And he says, well, it's the smell of your grow-op going on here. And I said, I don't have a grow-op. He said, look yourself, right? And of course, he trundles through my house, and he comes back 20 seconds later looking sheepish and disappointed, and all the other officers, and they all bow their heads and they walk out. And one officer stays there and says, well, I guess we made a mistake. I should explain how we got the warrant to enter your premises. I said, yeah, I'd like to know that. He says, well, we walked by last Wednesday and we smelt marijuana coming from your house. I said, well, that's normal. We made an agreement with the landlord. We blow the smoke out the windows. We try not to smoke in the house. And he says, well, from there we decided to get a warrant to enter your premises, and we looked at your hydrometer and we smelled the exhaust fan from your dryer exhaust. And I go, yeah, and he says, well, we thought the dryer exhaust smelled a little bit like marijuana, and we found your power consumption was a little high. And I go, well, that's wrong. I said, and anyway, they said, well, that's how we got it, and they left. Now, unfortunately, I have some influence. I've got a magazine, Cannabis Culture magazine. There's free copies for you here, and I have a video TV, I just can't call it TV, a video webcasting service called Pot TV. We've produced over 1,000 shows in the last 4 years, and over 4 million people have viewed these shows. And you can also look at that out there in the anterooms. But nonetheless, I was able to call the media, and they came by, and the reporter next day, yep, sure smells like vanilla bounce out of this dryer exhaust hose. And then they called the Hydro up, and Hydro said, that rate's the lowest on the block. It's like $75 a month, right? So clearly the police fabricated the warrant just to get inside my house, see what I was doing. And I wasn't doing anything, so which they would have known because the dryer exhaust smelled like vanilla bounce and not marijuana, and the power consumption was low. And so they knew really that there was not going to be nothing like that in there. But anyway, so that doesn't even show up as a statistic. I get woken up at 3:30 by 8 police officers going through my house and making me very uneasy. And of course, I've been raided 5 times, and I have been arrested 10 times, but that doesn't count. See, I wasn't arrested. It doesn't show up in any statistics. So everybody who gets raided in the middle of the night like me, like some police state, doesn't even show up on a statistic because I didn't get charged for anything. Things like that happen all the time. However, it could get worse. In New York City alone, they arrest 75,000 people a year for marijuana, and every last one of them has to go to jail overnight. In New York City, if you get arrested, you have to go to jail overnight. And you're thinking, well, what's one jail overnight? But I'll tell you this, because I'm sort of at a media center in the marijuana industry, and I'll get to more of those later, I hear everything, all the injustices around the world, and I get swamped with them, and it sometimes makes my life very sad. I feel privileged that I'm only in jail overnight sometimes, or I get raided at 3:30 in the morning, and they go away eventually, and I can call the media to come to my rescue or at least verify what's going on. A lot of other people have no such opportunity. In New York City, everybody goes to jail overnight, 70,000 people. You wouldn't want to be in a New York jail overnight. But for example, in the weekend before last, a 19-year-old boy, it's all he is, I'm 45 years old if you're a 19-year-old boy to me. My kids are all older than that, and I still call them boys. And he delivered marijuana on his bicycle on the university campus of Gainsborough, small amounts. People would call up on their thing, and he'd take $20, $30 over them and deliver. Well, he got caught, and he got put in jail, and this was just like 10 days ago in Gainesville, Florida, and he was really brutally raped by a sexual predator put in the same cell beside him. Now, he wouldn't normally tell this, but his parents have gone public to say that in the 2 days he was held over the weekend, and in that brief time he had a pen shoved to his neck, and he was sexually assaulted, raped by a sexual predator who's been kept in the same cell for the last year. And of course they always say, well, budget cutbacks and what have you, and these things are going to happen. But here's a 19-year-old carrying $20 worth of marijuana someplace, gets thrown in jail, and now the whole course of his life is irrevocably changed, right? But it can get worse. Like I was in Rolling Stone last week. I'm a lucky guy. I get to be in lots of media. They wrote a nice article about me last week in Monsters of Rock Summer, so it'll sell really well to the young people. And it's about a fellow that we help, and I'm pleased to say I'm able to help a lot of people to some degree. But anyway, a fellow named Webster Alexander, 19-year-old boy, never had any trouble with the law, nothing ever. But in Alabama's a dark hole of sentencing for all sorts of things. People go away for a long time. He had sold the principal of his high school, a good student, by the way, never had any trouble with any, good principal of his high school brought in an undercover police officer to pose as a student in a little town called Moulton, Alabama. And the police officer would go around to the students and he'd solicit, who can sell me weed, in a party, blah, blah, blah. So he meets this one fellow, Webster Alexander, who sells him a half an ounce of marijuana on 3 occasions. Total of an ounce, net value $350 and less in Canada.